Idaho's 2026 ballot has two opposing laws. One legalizes marijuana, the other makes it impossible to ever vote on it again. Stick around. Dave, Eric, and I are going to hash this out on today's episode of North Idaho Experience. Lots of nuanced topics here to discuss. Hope you guys enjoy this, and please drop comments if you have something to say about this argument, because there's a lot to it. Hey, if you guys are thinking about making the move up here, give our real estate team a call, text, or email. We specialize in helping conservative families find their freedom right here in North Idaho. Enjoy. Let's jump right into it, because this is going to be a hot one today. We're talking about marijuana, the devil's lettuce, and potentially coming to Idaho. Is that a big deal? Like, what's that going to do, Eric? Eric, you're freaking out right now, aren't you?
No, dude, I'm really not. Honestly, man, I could go a couple different directions with this. I always joked on patrol and said I wasn't going to be the guy that would kick down your door if you're smoking a bowl in your garage, eating Funyuns, working on your car, right? Like, those people, to me, don't generally cause a whole lot of problems, but the entire marijuana industry's changed a lot, and we have a lot of really good studies to reference from other states to see what the other ramifications of that are, because this isn't just about the substance.
It is not. And let me be clear. I am not morally opposed to marijuana. I've partaken in the past. I think there are legitimate uses for it. But it calls into question when you see these other states legalizing it. And I'll get into California and what that looked like working as a cop in California when that happened. There's a correlation. There is a correlation. I don't know if it's the marijuana specifically. I don't know what it is. But hopefully we can hash some of that out today. But there's a correlation between legalizing drugs and a state sliding downward into crime.
You know, I kind of look at it almost as twofold. Obviously, we have the situation you guys have talked to as well, but there's a lot of, being in law enforcement in Idaho, we were very aggressive with even marijuana, right? One of 4 states that it's not just illegal, but it's also criminalized here in the state. You get a misdemeanor and you can go to jail. And I've arrested people for marijuana, right? Idaho has very much been a state that has been aggressive on enforcement, okay? So regardless of whether or not you agree with marijuana being legalized or not, the fact is that right now it's not. And there's a lot of pressure on people that, well, other states, it's legal, so it should be legal here, or it's not that big of a deal. I shouldn't be arrested for it. I shouldn't be fined for it. My first thing is from enforcement. When I really look at it, one of the reasons why Idaho is so different than going across the border and ending up in downtown Spokane is the enforcement factor, right? We all know that there's other states where there's things that are clearly illegal and enforcement doesn't happen. Follow through doesn't happen. Over here, a lot of it does. And even on the smallest level with marijuana, which is ultimately, I always refer to it as a party drug. It's going to piss some people off, right? Have glaucoma, or they don't sleep well, or whatever else. But the fact is that routinely when you've looked at marijuana, it's been a party drug. It's been associated as a party drug. Now, immediately the whole medical community is like, this is bullshit, right? But it's the truth. When you think of like, hey, what's a party drug? People have a tendency to say marijuana.
Well, alcohol's a party drug too, right?
It is. And here's the thing. If I asked you right now, okay, and I said, hey, all alcohol is eliminated from the world. You could get rid of every ounce of alcohol and it would never come back in. No black market, nothing else. There's no alcohol. Would it be a better world?
Yes.
Arguably, yes.
Yes.
Right? But we can't do that.
Wouldn't be a better afternoon after this week.
No, right? But if you look at it, yes, alcohol is a party drug 100%. And I'd say alcohol by far kills more people than marijuana.
Oh, yeah.
And nobody's going to disagree with that, right? But the truth is it's here to stay. And we all know if we try to take that away, there's a reason there's a 19th Amendment and the 21st. It's because it came back, right? And you cannot eliminate that thing. That's what we deal with 2A right now. People are like, well, we need to get rid of guns. And there's a huge argument for it. But once again, if I said, hey, you could get rid of all weapons in the entire world, would it be a safer place? I'm willing to bet it would. But you can't do that. It's not reasonable. Idaho sits in a reasonable spot to continue to withhold certain drugs like marijuana and other items that have been legalized or decriminalized in other states from coming here. And the enforcement factor, I think, is what really, really matters here. If you were to legalize marijuana, I think that you would see a massive shift like we've seen in other states, and you would see the opportunity that would follow with criminalized behavior.
I'll tell you, man, even watching it like from courtside, because I was in, courtside, it sounds like I'm talking about basketball, but in court, right? Being in court, a lot of prosecutors, if it's your first offense and it's like a marijuana paraphernalia charge, that gets gone. right? A lot of times, even the prosecution side, they're not as fervent on just pure marijuana charges, especially if there's nothing else tied to it. Now, DUI, that can be a different animal, right?
Oh, yeah.
That can be a tool to maybe put somebody on probation that was engaged in some other behaviors. We all know how the court system works, right? You can't always catch them for whatever that long-standing crime that could further victimize other innocent civilians was. So some marijuana can kind of be a catch-all. But we have all these excellent examples from other states. I might have been more in favor, or at least entertaining it 15 years ago, 20 years ago. But we now all these have examples of states and what they've done. And then what's happened since. Washington went from 2014, 30th ranked in the country in crime, to 4. Oregon's number 5. Colorado's number 2. And I'm not blaming weed. People are going to be like, oh, you're blaming marijuana. I'm really not. But I do think it starts to invite the idea of the decriminalization of criminal activities. And I think there tends to be a certain segment or contingent of society that goes there with it. I was a dope cop. Did I always find fentanyl with weed? Nope. Did I often find weed with meth and fentanyl? Yep. And I'm not even saying they're directly associated. There's plenty of people that'll go home and smoke a little bit of weed, but there just tends to be a contingent that follows with it. Mm-hmm. So it's just, we have too many really good examples of other states where we really have to deep dive. And I don't want to debo this, but truly it's not the same weed either.
It's not at all. And you kind of touched on something right there, right? You said a lot of times you found somebody with, methamphetamine, anything else, they would have weed. The fact is that weed, the argument for marijuana is not for enjoyment. It's a medical argument. That's what's been going on throughout the United States for years. It has a medicinal purpose. The problem is the regulations are so loose that it allows you to use it in other ways. And the people that are going to violate that have a tendency to find themselves violating other things. And so it has a tendency to work its way in. And now, like you said, marijuana is not marijuana anymore.
Do you think
cocaine's not cocaine anymore?
Do you think any of the medical marijuana is 90% THC content? That's what some of the derivatives are now. When you start getting into the shatter wax, dab, resin, the distillates, all of that, and then you start getting into the funky stuff that's already been altered, like the Delta 8, Delta 10, THCP, but 90% THC content, when the highest flowers that we ever got as kids, Seth and I have talked a little bit about our history,
came in a brick from Mexico, yeah.
But even at one point in time, like early 2000s, it was like 4%. So if you actually got some hydroponic stuff, that's where it shifted a little bit. You could get up over 20. So if you had like White Widow, Purple Kush, like stuff
crazy.
But then it'd get 20, 25% in the flower variety. But now you've got these derivatives that are 75 to 90%. And then shocker, we're seeing some psychosis that we didn't see before.
Right.
Because it's weird when you go on AI and you try to look up crime rates, it like still fights it. If it's like one of the publicly available ones, it fights it. But when all we got to do is look at the crime rates, and again, we're not blaming it on marijuana. I think it's a number of things that got a little bit funky. But when you start including those types of derivatives, which is natural when it becomes legal, how can I get more high?
Right.
It's not enough now that I can get high legally.
It's 100%.
How do I get more high? Right.
So you guys, now I've never smoked weed, but this kind of sounds like dork. Yeah. This kind of sounds like being in a fire station and bringing in pre-workout. Okay, we would always up it. We're like, we're gonna try a little more. Until somebody brought in something that said
spoons. You're like melting it.
Yeah. Right. I know. And then somebody brought in something and they put it down and says, "I am God," and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Yeah. I'm not gonna do that. I feel like I'm either gonna meet God or I'm gonna believe that I'm God, and either one of them I don't think is a good thing.
No, I don't think it'd be. I don't think it would be very positive.
I think that there is, when you bring up stuff like that, we have changed things from their, from the origination. Oh, goodness.
Got us all messed up.
I know. I wonder if he can change my.
He had a 60% THC content before this.
But seriously, I mean, we've gone from trying to take something from its natural derivative. And then turning it into something that's synthetic or something that's laced or something that has more of, because we are a society that more is better. And like you said, what's the next way to get more high?
Yes.
That's where the problem comes in. And people that are doing that are not doing that because they have back pain or they can't sleep well. It gets abused. And this is the problem that you see with drugs across the country is people abuse it. Look at Oxy. I just had the pinched nerve. I went in, I'm like, oh man, I got this pinched nerve. My hand's still numb. He's like, oh, I'll prescribe you some muscle relaxers, some prednisone. I'll give you some Oxy. And I'm like, what the fuck? You're going to give me Oxy?
Dude, but take Oxy back to where it came from. How long has that been in our society?
Right.
Thousands of years? Opium?
Yeah.
But think of what the concentrations were.
Right.
It's used in different religion, different Asia, still centrally concentrated there. But you're talking about such small contents that the little feeling you'd get. I mean, human beings have been trying to get high since the beginning of time. Think about this shit. Like some dude in Africa realized that if you lick a toad, you can get high. How many toads did that dude have to lick, along with whatever animals and whatever other parts he licked? But some other dude had to lick toads, and there's another toad you lick and you die. So was it just...
That sucks.
Jerry and Ted are out walking around. That would not be their names in Africa, by the way, but I'm not going to go down that road. But they're out walking around, and they're like, dude, you lick that toad, I lick this toad. One gets high, the other one gets dead. Like, human beings have tried to alter their mental conscious for a long period of time. But you think back, opium, it's the same damn thing. Now you've got fentanyl. It's 50 times more potent than heroin, and heroin was a concentrated version of opium. Now you've got it going with marijuana. Dude, I fought a guy downtown. Probably shouldn't say their name on here, with a couple other guys. We would have sworn he was on meth. Absolutely would have sworn it. One ended up with a busted lip, one of our guys. We would have sworn he was on meth, the way he was exhibiting. All that dude had in his system was weed. High concentrations for 3 days, and he kept trying to use it to go to sleep. There are documented, it says right here, psychosis and schizophrenia risk. There are studies indicating it's significantly higher now when you're using the high concentration, high dosage.
And I'm willing to bet when all this started years ago that wasn't an issue that we were having for side effects, because we weren't using that high level of THC.
Right. You literally couldn't smoke that much to catch up to that. It's not even possible.
And it's difficult because what is the first business when you drive across into Washington?
It's the pod shop. It's all Idaho
and
plates,
it is
right?
especially pronounced in what demographic do you think?
This feels like a trick question. I'm going to stay out of this one.
Youth.
Oh, okay. Sure. Gotcha.
Kids. It's especially pronounced where we have, like, if you look at our society in general, one of the things we're looking at is how much more common is it now for our kids to get diagnosed with some particular mental health condition than it was 20 or 25 years ago.
Right.
And again, I'm not blaming weed, but I think we're really quick to put them on Adderall. I think we're really quick to diagnose our kids and then put them on some sort of medication anyways. But I think when you're introducing marijuana, and not like marijuana was, where we were picking seeds out of it, like when I was a kid, you're introducing this variety that's a totally different animal.
Right.
Alter your brain chemicals.
Okay, let me hit you with some legal stuff here, just so we're fully clear. Current legal status: recreational, fully illegal; medical, fully illegal; CBD, only legal if it contains 0.0% THC. So that's Idaho currently. Penalties for that, I'll just go through a couple. Less than 3 ounces is a misdemeanor. Penalties up to a year in jail, unlikely. Mandatory $300 fine. It goes up from there. It goes up, becomes a felony, 3 ounces to a pound, and then above a pound it's a felony, and it starts getting into trafficking. So it's fully illegal here. We are bordered by states where it is legal. Fully legal? Is Montana fully legal? I think it is.
Honestly, I don't know if the
Just
personal
medical.
is. Medical, it's definitely medical, but they don't.
Yeah.
They have a hard time enforcing.
So that's where we're at. I mean, that's current. There's some upcoming legislation and some pushes to change that, both directions. But I want to jump into California real quick because I have personal experience of this as a cop. 2010, it was reduced to an infraction. So good old Arnie Schwarzenegger. That was a great governor, by the way. He reduced it down to an infraction, so you would just get a ticket.
Yep, like a parking ticket.
Just like a parking ticket, right? Okay. Like I lived through that. I became a cop in 2008. So I worked through that, and it was like, okay, not a huge change. Full legalization 2016. That was Prop 64 in California. That effectively legalized for personal use, possession up to 1 ounce, and cultivation up to 6 plants of marijuana for adults age 21 and older. That was the beginning of the end, in my opinion. Then it slipped into methamphetamine, heroin, decriminalized, right? And that's the fear, right? Washington's there as well, right? And look at their crime rates. That slippery slope, I'm afraid would happen here in Idaho if it became legal.
It's because it turns into voting trends, right? Mm-hmm. It's not about marijuana. It's about voting trends. When you are in certain states, liberal states, where the voting trend is to legalize the use of illicit substances, it doesn't stop with marijuana. It's a voting trend. It's not about the drug. And that's the thing. A lot of people, like you said, people are going to label this as like anti-marijuana. That's not it. It's a voting trend that can literally take your state and flip it upside down. And having that brought to Idaho, in my personal opinion, I absolutely vote no every time.
Same. I would as well. Upcoming ballot measures, 2026. So this is coming up in the November 3rd election. There is a push from both sides. The Medical Cannabis Act is coming up. That's a citizen initiative to legalize medical use for substantial health conditions. That's how it started in every other state, right? And there are legitimate, thank you, Austin. He says Montana is fully legal for marijuana. So we are surrounded by legal states.
Austin is our Jamie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kill
Yeah.
it,
So-
dude.
Yeah. Okay. So Medical Cannabis Act, they've collected over 100,000 signatures. So it likely will qualify to be at least on the ballot, right? Mixed feelings on that.
That's a tough one.
It's a tough one.
Because if my kids had a severe
Epilepsy, something like that,
a
right?
severe medical condition, right? And a doctor said, hey, this is what's going to help them make it through it. Man, that's a tough one for me. Yeah, I agree with you.
Could I drive
That's
over the
really,
border
really
and get
hard.
it? Yeah, I could drive over the border and get
Right.
it, but I'm risking, right, enforcement.
The issue with it is, how do you enforce it? That's what never gets thought about when you're actually
Right.
bringing something before. All right, hey, we're going
I
to
agree.
change all this. What do we tell our cops to do? It's legal. Are they going to carry a card? Are they going to keep it in a prescription bottle?
Oh,
Because
buddy.
we have codes for that, right? Like the 5400. Like, how do we actually?
I have seen all of that ridiculousness, and then the cards that people come up with, and they find some Joe Blow doctor somewhere that's passing out cards.
As it turns
Nonsense.
out, you can completely AI fake a card. It's really not that difficult. Not speaking from experience.
Yes, that it opens a really challenging door, and the counter argument is, well, look at all that tax money that could be coming to Idaho, right? You could tax all of the sales of that marijuana. That money would go to Idaho.
That's where things get bad. When these
Yes.
politicians jump in and say, hey, this is a good thing for our state because we can make
Gonna make
money.
money.
That's not the truth. That money would get eaten up by crime and criminal activity so quick
Right.
that it wouldn't even balance out, not even close. You do a balance sheet and you watch the changes in this state and the money that would have to go through to enforcement and everything else and what you're going to deal with afterwards. Man, like you said, this is how it follows other states.
Now, let me hit you with the opposing side. So, Constitutional Amendment HJR 4 is a legislative proposal to permanently ban citizens from legalizing drugs via future ballot initiatives. That sounds a little harsh. I don't know. There's a lot of studies out now with hallucinogenics and PTSD, and it's a valid treatment.
You know what? I have a little problem with this. I have a little problem with this. The popular vote is a very, very strong thing and likely to not be swayed like politicians. And I'll tell you what, if you took that away, what you just said, can you read it again real quick?
So this proposal will permanently ban citizens from legalizing drugs via future ballot initiatives.
So how does it get legalized after that point? It get legalized through Congress, through our Congress, right? Through the Idaho State legislature. It's going to get legalized that way. And now you're talking about having to convince 50, 60 people and people that can be and historically were bought.
How dare you,
Right.
sir?
I know. No politician has ever
'cause
been bought.
Here's what I see, man. Like, permanently ban citizens from. So you won't even allow them to put it on initiative? Come on.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
the
that's-
popular vote, I think I'd vote no on that.
I would too.
Legalizing drugs via future ballot, like any?
Right.
Because right now, I think one of the biggest groups that's pushing a lot of bad actors in our government is Big Pharma.
Right.
I just refuse to not believe that after what we've seen in the last 4 or 5 years. So now if there is something out that's a lot more natural, that has the same active ingredients, but all of a sudden Pfizer really wants to run it on another side, right? Then that's
But you're giving all the control
Yeah.
to the people that you've elected. And honestly, that's our biggest issue.
Yeah, that smells to me like Big Pharma's influence on them.
I would vote no.
You shouldn't
Yes,
use that
I'd
natural product, but here, we made a pill.
Not only that, but we have to look at it like this. Look, we talk about this all the time. What's our passion here with this channel, right? We want to keep North Idaho, truly.
Right.
We want to pass as much information out to people. We want to retain the culture that we've created here. But I used to tell this to guys that were going over to Spokane to be cops. You have to remember when you go over there and you're coming from Idaho, you are acting at the will of your citizens by way of elections. They've elected certain people in there that are going to control your policy. They're going to control how proactive you are, and you are acting at the will of them. So at some point, like, you don't get to make this determination now because our citizenry can change.
By doing that, we give more power to government,
Yeah.
which people in Idaho are against. They want power with the people. If you make something to where we can no longer vote on an initiative, that we can no longer put an initiative on the ballot so the people can make the decision, you leave it to your legislative group.
Here's a perfect example. Bob Ferguson in Washington with the income tax. He held that until the very last minute, 11th hour that he could to submit it, so that by the time, because once he submits it, they can put in for an initiative. Held it till the very last second in an effort to thwart the number of signatures required to even get it onto an initiative. So they will already get creative with trying to remove that. Why would we statutorily allow it?
Right, and Idaho,
Absolutely not.
Idaho has the largest concentration of veterans and first responders anywhere in the U.S. I keep saying that, it's true. Who is most likely to suffer from post-traumatic stress?
Yeah.
That demographic.
And let's be honest, man. Sorry.
But what helps them and is being shown in lots of studies across the U.S. is things like ibogaine, psilocybin, and these will never be allowed in here now. And I don't think we should ignore that.
Let's be honest, though. How many times, Eric, when you and I were cops, did we walk into somebody's house and bust them for having marijuana? I can think personally of zero.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. People over here in Idaho that need it for their medicinal issues, whatever else, they got it. They can go get it. I've seen marijuana all over the place in Idaho. If you need something, this is not a country or a place where you cannot get something if you needed it. But to turn around and say, well, we have to make it available for everybody because of X, Y, and Z doesn't make sense to me.
No, but also the guys that you're talking about, I know several vets that do, they'll microdose with either marijuana or psilocybin or whatever. They're extremely regulated about how and when. They're not going to be out there with 90% dab and wax getting totally unearthed. You know what I mean?
You sound like such a boomer when you talk like that.
What do you mean?
Doesn't he?
What?
He does. You're a boomer.
Yeah.
Am I?
Yeah.
How? What did I say?
You're a boomer.
You just put on your white sneakers and go grill, bro.
Maybe I will, dude. Maybe I will. You don't think I got New Balances on right now? Knee-high white socks. It's about mowing season.
That you come in with white New Balances, you got to be kidding me.
The dad king of house for a reason.
I found these at Costco on sale.
So that makes me nervous. I mean, honestly, seeing that, because we're voluntarily giving up our rights as citizens to make these laws.
I don't like either of them.
We've for so long, the number one complaint across the U.S. right now is the fact that we don't have control anymore. Like, I mean, you literally watch legislators make these decisions for you. And I understand there's a place for that, right? But we give so much power to that. And that, I believe, would give even more power for them to make those decisions for us, whether you get it, whether you don't, whether something else. What about heroin? What about methamphetamine? What if they wanted to do something like that? They could, and it would not take the vote of the people.
Yeah, I don't like it when I see two extremist positions. And to be fairness, the medical one, that's always going to be an argued. That's not even extremist. That's not even asking for full legalization. This side looks like shit, trying to infringe upon other people's rights to even have a choice in the future or for their kids to have a right. And you guys know we're not pro marijuana. I just don't like seeing both. There's a big amount of room in the middle to have a conversation and actually talk about things that make some sense.
Yeah, I'm going to say that I'm permanently in the middle on this one because I don't like the HJR4, and I'm torn on the other side because I've seen it firsthand. And like I said, there's a correlation. I don't know how much, but it correlates with future crime. And maybe it's just a stepping stone, and the next step is legalizing other things, and that creates the crime. I'm not sure, but it's been proven time and time again in states across the U.S.
And then, there's other places to live. And I've always said it, like, you can have states' rights are so huge. When the states all start blending to look exactly the same, you got a problem. You should move to a state and have pride in your state and say, hey, we have different values than the state next door. And that's okay. That's why there's different states, and that's why there's state rights. Otherwise, if we all blend together, you just have one massive government that runs everybody, and I don't like it. I like that you can go to one state and you can get a completely different set of values, a completely different set of laws, and then you can go somewhere else and you can live a different way. Same with taxes and everything else.
And find the one that fits you, man.
Right.
Today's day and age, you can have a really good, decent, high-paying job working telework. I mean, that's what's allowed people to actually select the state that fits their values the best. Go do that.
Yeah. And California is still beautiful if you like this stuff.
Or live near the border and you can just go do that.
You can just
if you live near on the Washington side, near the Idaho border, you can duck over here and buy standard capacity magazines for your firearms.
Right.
I don't endorse that, but you can. Yeah. And if you live near the Washington on the Idaho side, you can duck over there and buy your marijuana. I don't endorse that, but you can.
The 30-round magazines now are like Pez for me, like the cash register, like when you're checking out.
Oh, yeah, throw one.
Yeah, when you're checking out a Black Sheep, and you're like, grab one more.
It's only like $15. Come on.
Got just stashed everywhere. So I think I have more mags than I do ammo. I don't know.
That says something.
There we go.
Final thoughts. What do you guys think? I mean, where do you see this in 5 years? Are we going that way?
As a state or as a country?
State.
Well, start with they're already trying to reclassify marijuana from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3, which I actually agree with.
Would that change anything in
I believe
Idaho?
they just did this morning for.
I thought I saw.
There's stipulations. It's not entirely. There's for like certain medical procedures, something that's been declassified or classified lower.
Well, and Idaho's always had it as a Schedule 3. So again, it goes back to the states that are actually doing that. Makes it a misdemeanor, not a felony. As a state, I think we're going to keep running into it. It's going to be tough in Idaho just because there's such a good example right next door. And we see this with local elections sometimes where people are trying to run from the state of Washington. People see Washington and they don't want it here.
Yeah.
Just because it's such a close nearby example. So I think there will always be a movement for it, but I don't see it happening here.
I don't see it happening either. I think within 5 years, you're just going to see more support for the Keep Idaho. The people that are watching this channel and the people that are moving here, I'd say 90% of them are against legalizing marijuana. And I think that's continuing to grow. We've had that conversation with other people on where the state is leaning, at least North Idaho for sure. And I think in 5 years, I think it's still going to be criminalized and illegal.
Until they found a way to where they could clean up the actual like medical prescribed side, I think you run into the same because people can have a Schedule 1, Schedule 2 controlled substance right now, that's a felony. And if it's prescribed to them, then it's not illegal, right? So until they cleaned that up to where it was prescribed and recognized enough sufficiently in medicine that it's prescribed to you by a doctor.
So maybe it'd be state-run weed shops like the state-run liquor stores here.
Where you go, maybe you go sit in there and get your treatment. And
but that's my issue, man.
Jump in your car and drive away.
But that's how you end up with all these different varieties, dude. That's how you end up with these high concentration derivatives because everybody's going to go in and want to get the most potent.
Because it's about the money. It's not about the drug.
Guess where
where you have dab.
The huge marijuana trafficking, guess where it came from? It came from legitimate growers that had overage and they'd sell it out the back. You know what I mean? So it's not like just because it's run by the state doesn't mean it makes it legal right away.
Right.
They just traffic it to states where it's not.
This is definitely a nuanced subject.
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
in the meantime,
we'll see what happens in November.
I know that we'll have folks that disagree with our perspectives. We welcome it.
Absolutely.
Welcome it. Good civil discourse.
Drop some comments in there. We'll respond. We'll see what's up. All right.
Nice.
Thank you, guys.
The jazz
Thank you.
cabbage.
Go vote.